everybody, welcome to Monday Night Live in Lexington, you guys. Two different things tonight. We're going to do Facebook live stream. We're also doing Instagram here. Since our main show is on Facebook, we'll try to interact as much as we can with you guys on Instagram, but you're going to kind of take a side seat here. So tonight we have a special guest. Say the name again correctly.
It's not a name, it's just a brand name or whatever. Shifu Gareaga.
There you go. I didn't want to mess it up, so. Anyway, he is the owner of Blue Lotus Acupuncture here in Lexington. And he is also the director of the Wu Taodi Academy of Chinese Martial Arts.
Yeah, it's actually all the three treasures. So martial arts, medicine, and philosophy. Which
is very, very good. And I highly suggest that anybody need acupuncture to please go and see this practitioner here. He's most excellent at his craft. Now, tonight we want to start back into a topic that we hit on, I guess it was a few months ago.
Yeah.
We did an episode on the plasma electric universe, and it's on my YouTube channel and on his YouTube channel as well. And we'll put the links in the comments section for you. Now, for those of you on Instagram, if you want to hop over to Facebook and get those links, I will leave those there for you. So how did you get started in all of this studying up on the plasma electric universe?
Well, one second. You mind if I
go ahead?
Plugs? Okay, yeah. All right. I know that I'm here to talk about me, but I do want to talk about a couple things I think people should know about. I definitely got to recommend Jolie Productions, the series of DVDs that Lee Pennington puts out. He is a Kentuckian, and he is president of the Ancient Kentucky Historical Association, which we now have a Facebook group that you can join and get some of this stuff. And, you know, documentaries like this one and the one he's doing on Gunung Padang are unbelievable. I also wanted to mention that for this talk, you may want to pick up a couple things. One would be, for example, this book, The Nephilim Chronicles. And then this one in particular is the travel guide. Okay, so you can get the other ones if you want, but on the Cherokee Coalition page, which there's a link on the Electric Universe Gateway. I made that since we had the last show.
And I'll leave that link on there too as well.
This one's a travel guide, and it can help you get to a number of things. Doesn't have much on Kentucky, unfortunately, but it's got a couple things. And the other one is you might consider getting the History of Lexington. And the way you get this is you go to archives.org, and you get the PDF and you order it. I got mine through Harvard Press. You could probably find any other publisher, but in here, this is where you're going to find some of the cool stuff about the mummies. So we'll get to that a little bit later. And
Lexington has mummies.
Yeah, and listen, this is an unfolding path. Just today was out driving with my father at the Knobs, and if you guys haven't been to Central Kentucky Wildlife Refuge in the Knobs, not in Richmond, but if you haven't been to that, it's really worth going to. And I just pulled up a documentary to listen to on the Ancient Astronauts Argument channel, and it's the basically the hidden history of this entire region. And they started mentioning all sorts of things that I still hadn't even covered. And lo and behold, they start the documentary. The director of the Smithsonian, at the time they made this documentary, didn't know about the Hopewell culture. And that's the most absurd thing, because after all, one of the books we're going to be referencing today is this one you can still get on Amazon, The Ancient Monuments of the Mississippi Valley, Squires and Davies. It's not what I would call the most standard book anymore, but the drawings and everything are standard. The interpretations are completely dated and a little bit racist, the Victorian era. So it's just amazing the amount that's been hidden. And how I got into it was doing this Hidden Destinations in Kentucky.
Which I'm going to leave a link to that too, because there are a ton of hidden destinations, and you've put how many up?
I mean, it's about 980, and just about 24 new ones in the last month or so. I mean, just on Friday, 6 more destinations went right onto the map, and the credit goes to my assistant for finding those, which I had thought I had exhausted all the conservation efforts, and there were some more. So it just keeps unfolding. I started with a book called Travel Guide 50 Hikes, something like that, and there were pictures of waterfalls you could swim in. I thought that was amazing. I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
And I started putting them all on Google Maps because I'm a logical kind of guy. I do everything that way. My background in engineering, I build things, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought at 200, I thought I was done. At 300, I thought for sure I was saturating and overloading the map. By the time I get to 500, I just embraced it. And then you get to 800 and you're going, oh, we got to be it. And then I get to 900, I'm like, well, I just don't, what we know about what is right in front of us is never as much as we imagine.
That's so sad, though, that the majority of us don't even know all these hidden destinations.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Little Egypt, Angel Hollow, Short Creek, Haunted Cave Road, Caver's Plunge. Yeah, there you go. There's 2 haunted cave roads. So and I just visited one, and it felt pretty dark. I was on my trip to Murder Branch.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so, Murder Branch, and that's up there to that Devil's Market House arch. So that Frenchburg area, very interesting. And so do the Lee Pennington and his group. They definitely are big on Menifee County.
Yeah, yeah.
So it started me down this road of searching about Kentucky. And I wrote the book, and I thought I was done with the Native American stuff. I got snubbed by we'll leave his name out, but a mainstream archaeologist. I think he wanted a byline. But, I thought, okay, well, I must have exhausted what I can find. And then I started digging more, and I guess probably also a little bit of spirit guiding. Probably when I visited Wycliffe Indian Mounds, probably a little bit of native spirit. That place is haunted, just let you know.
That place is super haunted.
Very haunted, okay? I had to pull it out of my son. He was going to make him sick. So, and the next day we went and visited the Trail of Tears, the arch over there. It'll come to me as Mantle Rock Arch, which there are cactuses on the top of that.
Oh, that is so cool.
In Kentucky, yeah.
Yeah.
So, just I think unfolding and all the waterfall spirits. Let me tell you, all the waterfall spirits are very different. Each one is so different.
Each waterfall spirit is different.
They have totally different personalities, and some of them are jerks, and some of them actually are really cool and opening and inviting. So after visiting all these things and moving out throughout Kentucky over the last 4 or 5 years, somehow I got in on the Electric Universe stuff, and I don't even remember how it happened. It's usually the way best things go.
Oh yeah.
Now I didn't buy, and I don't recommend anybody just buy into anything. Okay, right now I'm currently learning Atlantean stuff, Sumerian stuff, and Electric Universe stuff, and you got to keep them separate. And you got to look at things where they belong. Yeah, where they belong. Where it hit for me was I went to the shelf. Okay, according to this Dave Talbot. Okay. His theory is that you're looking at archetypes. So take, for example, if you find crescents here in Kentucky, but no bulls, but then you find bull references in other countries, and you find ankhs and other shapes that are going up towards the heavens with a circle and a line coming down, what you're looking at is an archetype. That archetype describes several different interpretations that look different, but they're actually the same one thing.
Right.
So the pillar of heaven, the mountain of heaven, the Tower of Babel, all these things going up, the ladder to heaven, Jacob's ladder, these references that turn out to be something that you can actually see in a laboratory. So and in the Electric Universe Gateway, if you look on the left, you will see the link to the Parat Plasma Petroglyph paper. You can go and look at the paper yourself. This is Los Alamos Laboratory. He did this stuff in 1991. And it's groundbreaking stuff. A lot of good things happened in the early 90s.
Yeah, they did.
And so you go and you look. So I pull out this Kentucky rock art, and boom, there they all are. And they're all misinterpreted right away. You can see that they're not, and that's what my paper currently hinges on. In fact, and we'll go through these as soon as we're ready. But there are just wildly dismissive interpretations, and then there's just wrong interpretations, and then very rarely a correct interpretation. Where it's very obviously a bird, it's a bird.
Yeah.
Where it doesn't look like a bird at all, and it looks like a monster from Carpenter's The Thing, it's not a bird. It's a plasma petroglyph.
Let's go back and do some shout outs and see. I want to make sure that there are no questions because anybody who wants to ask a question, just put it down in the comments and I'll try to catch it. So, Destiny, hey, Danny, Rita, Leanne, Linda, Patricia, shout out to Sandra, Clemens, thank you for sharing all these episodes. Hey, Denise and Linda and Alyssa. Hey to Melissa Begley and Cleo. Hey, Ricky. So let me go down through there. Brenda Joe. Hi, Brenda Joe and Mindy. Hey, Cynthia. Thanks for tuning in. Hi to Teresa, Mindy, and Steve Hawkins. Thanks for joining. And hey to Mary Cummings. So if any of you guys want to ask a question, go right ahead. And so, yeah, are we starting with the rock art?
Yeah, I think, well, let's look at the earthworks, because I didn't bring the Kentucky Rock Art book. I've got an entire folder on the Electric Universe Gateway, and it's got the Kentucky Rock Art, the scans. Obviously, they're not credit to me. I did just see them in the Highlands Discovery Museum, because I was photographing it, and I was in Ashland. There's some wonderful mounds there in Ashland that are only the remnants of a huge complex. There are massive complexes that have disappeared
I didn't even know about
from
that.
Ashland and Portsmouth. Portsmouth had one of the biggest, and it was on the Kentucky side mostly, and then partially on the other side. So, you know, these complexes, which are detailed in this Smithsonian book, have mostly been erased. And that documentary I shared with you is detailing, you know, how bad. We're talking about if you just wiped out the Nubian or Egyptian stuff, or you got rid of Stonehenge, it would be that catastrophic, and that's exactly what has happened. So, you know, I was seeing these glyphs even there, but there's no interpretation. There's pretty much no interpretation. So let's look at a couple of these earthworks. So here is an earthwork showing here the quote great man. Now look here, see how it morphs, and the foot, and then look at this, the foot on this side. Now, unless, you know, he was on some kind of torture device, and these are huge, okay? I want you to understand these are some of the biggest earthworks, or in some cases, they are the biggest earthworks in the whole world. In Newark, they are the biggest earthworks in the whole world. This stretching is clearly meeting, this is plasma energy, or you could say ionized gases being stretched, and probably across the sky, because when you see these different kind of structure, different cultures showing the same thing. You've got giants and earthworks and geoglyphs, they can sometimes call them, in Britain, and you've got them in Nazca and the older culture, the Paracas. Then you know that you're looking at something that is seen in the sky, or alien, which we'll stick with right now, the more easily proven stuff. Now, let's look at some more of these. So, look at this one. You see the two heads. Yeah. That's a very strange way to depict a quote an alien, you know, like the. But if you look at the Nazca one, it's the owl feature is one of the most haunting aspects of it. Well, that's because what we're really looking at is the Mars and Venus mating that the Sumerians were describing. Here's another one of the great man in different parts. So clearly, some of the energy is starting to either dissipate or change shape. You've got here also variations on a theme. And remember, these are all very, very large. And then the one that my paper centers on here is this, quote, turkey foot glyph. Right. And the turkey foot, this is what's interesting, is that in the Kentucky rock art, you get this asymmetrical glyph. Now, I don't know about you. They've proven 40,000 years ago there is art that Pablo Picasso said, there's nothing new that we know. They were doing it. And yet, they started morphing everything. Everything started changing and becoming more grotesque sometimes, or frightening. They started, of course, drawing hybrid chimeras and things like that. Yeah. And very scary pictures. Of course, the famous one with the central figure and all the shadows around that. That's a very frightening one to actually observe. And so here in Kentucky, the assumption somehow made, they're smart enough to make these huge geometrical shapes and earthwork projects without apparently wheels or anything. And yet they can't draw a symmetrical turkey foot. And I find that
doesn't make any sense.
Highly irregular. And then when we actually go and look at some of these
Now,
massive
you did a
glyphs.
video on that today.
I did, yeah, on Saturday. And if people want to see, you know, a
Yeah,
little
if
bit
you
more
want to
detail,
know more about that, and thanks for all the hearts on Instagram. Kisses to you guys. If y'all want to know more about that, we'll put the link to the video that he just did on that interpretation in the comments section for you to look up. Hey, Marion.
Right, so here's a very famous giant earthwork. It's a mound in this case, and it's called the Alligator Mound. Now, what do we all know about Ohio, Kentucky?
No.
There's no alligators, okay? In the same way there's no giant snake-eating serpents here,
Right.
There's no alligators. And actually, if you look, this little thing sticking off the side is clearly not originally one of the three. So when we look at the three, the little turkey foot thing here, it's also repeated at the Eagle Mound, which is in Newark, and if you get in, you can see it's not symmetric.
Right.
You see that the toes don't get to the same center. So the petroglyphs in the rocks, looking also asymmetrical with the alligator glyph or the alligator earthwork and the eagle earthwork. And I'm seeing this repeated also at other sites in the Ohio, Kentucky area, which tells us that they are seeing something that they want to record as important. And there's either a conjunction or something like that. I maintain it's a conjunction because if you look at the mound, it looks like different objects up in the sky. And
It does look astrological.
It looks
nature.
astrological. It's a very good way to
And
put
you
it.
know, the zodiac is all, you know, goat.
Yeah,
Scorpio,
well, yeah. Well, some of
Sagittarius.
those, of course, are the actual zodiac constellations. But then when they would see them interact with each other or appear to interact, for example, maybe the Thunderbird. The Thunderbird. There's a very famous Nazca Thunderbird. Guess where they also find that in America? They don't find it just in Peru. And so this large Thunderbird moving about. And the Sioux would talk about the Thunderbird. And when they would see that interacting, say, with Orion the Hunter, then they would create a story around that. That would be our theory.
It's
okay?
all
That
kind
would
of
be our
fitting
theory.
together.
That's right. And what boggles the mind is that we're talking about earthworks that were here in Lexington. I don't know how many of your viewers are in Lexington, but in Lexington, the earthworks at Mount Horeb, and Peter's Village is what they're calling it. Peter's Village, very nondescript name that you actually in my book I pretty much almost didn't. I went and I photographed Mount Horeb and just about passed it by. That structure is probably older than the ones at Chillicothe. It's probably an original stamp of those ones because the reports of finding mummies and the reports of hidden catacombs. And again, you know,
I would love to see that.
I mean, in this book, you can actually see some of these structures maintained that are, you know, they're now gone. That they're not in Fayette County anymore. Here's one right here. This is massive. That's the Elkhorn
Oh.
going through
okay.
the earthwork. Okay, and then here we got on the next couple pages. Let's see.
So this would be a really good book for people to buy if they're interested in this.
Yeah, I think that if they're going to go out hunting earthworks and glyphs and everything, that they need
And
it
they
on
really
the
want
shelf.
to know about Kentucky's
Yes.
history.
If they really want to know. Of course, here's one that used to be in Bourbon County. If anybody of you in Paris, that top one, that was Bourbon County. Okay, massive, huge earthworks. And then another one from Lexington. Now, I want you to look at this one, this egg. Look at this egg. This is a huge earthwork. We're talking hundreds of feet. What is that little dip right there?
Yeah, why is that there?
We don't know. We have no idea because the evidence has been destroyed.
Yeah.
And now the only way we're going to see this evidence, part of my project is the LiDAR. There's already a guy doing he's doing his dissertation on the geoglyphs of Peter's Village. So I'm going to wait for his science to come out. I have already done some preliminary work, and you can see a lot of these remains, but they were pretty much plowing through these guys. I mean, on the Cherokee Coalition site, you can go to the evidence locker, and you can read stories, and you can see them in this Nephilim's Chronicles as well, where universities were reclaiming the mounds and their stuff, and then that was destroyed. In fact, and this is
That's sad.
It's so sad. And I don't use the term Adena professionally because Adena is the farm that the owner had them come and you know, catalog it and then destroyed it.
God.
So I'm using now professionally the term Elegui. okay, because that is more respectful. That's what the Sioux called them. The Sioux thought that they were descendants. The Lakota Sioux thought they were descendants. Of course, the Cherokee thought that they were descendants. I'm not sure exactly where in Bourbon County. I'll have to do some more research to find out exactly where. One of the things about archaeology that will drive you crazy. Okay, if you go to the Kentucky Heritage Council, guys, and you go to their resources page, they have two 600-page volume releases. They have released some information. 24,000 archaeological sites. And I can tell you, because I'm the one who's actually put them on my map, and I've done another map on the Eastern culture, they've only publicly released a few dozen of these sites or things that people have found. Why do you think that the travel guide, he has so few things in his book? Because they keep it hidden. And what they're not telling you is they've got no sites in Kentucky that I'm aware of where mammoths were killed by these people or mastodons. And yet they're telling you that they've all been killed by mastodons and mammoths. It's absolute ludicrousness. So my paper goes into that, and I have my own alternate theory as to the megafauna extinction. So the evidence in Kentucky still remains. It's a little difficult.
Do you suggest that?
Well, I do, because look at this guy. So this is Rick Osman. He wrote Graves of the Golden Bear.
The Ancient Kentucky Historical Association.
Yes. And you get a newsletter every month. I think that it's every month, might be every couple months. It's only $10 a household, so you can get your whole household signed up. But the Facebook group is free, and there's back issues of the newsletters up already.
Okay.
So Rick does work, and he looks at copper mines. There's amazing copper mines, fluorite mines in the area, in the Kentuckiana region.
Yeah.
And he is finding just amazing stuff. He's shown me some of his work. I mean, just a smidge. I mean, these guys are even more aggressive than I am, you know? And they are finding stuff that will blow your mind.
This
Roman
newsletter
coins.
was so
Roman
interesting.
coins in Louisville.
Very, very interesting. And yet, you're right, Kentucky is one of the biggest places for fluorite mining.
That's right. And it was important because it was not for looks, okay? Fluorite is really pretty when you backlight it, but it was for iron smelting. So take a look at, like, speaking of cultures coming from around the world, what's this look like to everyone? Oh, over here.
This one?
Look at that. What does that look like?
Actually, it looks like a menorah.
It looks like, yeah. Well, that is hundreds of feet in size.
Wow.
And that one's still remaining, or at least at the time that the commentators in 1894, they were dismissing it. Of course, it doesn't look like a menorah. They doubted it. Well, they're finding in these cultures, in the mounds, okay, and then they're burying this in boxes, Hebrew and Aramaic, and they miss. And this is in the early 1800s, or early 1900s. They would flip it upside down and they'd say, well, we don't know what it is. It must be, Cherokee, before we knew that they had the language. Then they put that away like that's not a big deal. Turns out it's Phoenician.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and these were Smithsonian scholars on Semitic studies who are finding these from Ohio Hopewell and looking at them. That's all in that documentary that's been shared, and I will put it up in the Cherokee Coalition really soon, tonight probably.
Okay.
So
that's amazing.
These earthworks are recordings. Now the question becomes, how did it get there? And how did some of these other things get there? Either they were influenced, either there's an Atlantean influence, or there's trade networks that they're not talking about, or they don't want you to talk about. I mean,
maybe
or
there's
they saw it in the
already
sky.
Evidence of Atlantean stuff that they've destroyed.
Oh, there's absolutely. I think that there's no doubt, guys, that our mummies from Lexington are gone. I don't think that we'll ever find them again. If the director of the Smithsonian had never heard of the Hopewell culture, there's almost no chance that we'll ever. It's like that scene in Raiders of the Lost Ark. It's in a box somewhere, or it's been incinerated. There are assertions and conspiracy theories that the giant bones, which are probably Nordic or Welsh in nature, but could be Roman. You never know. It could be, but that they are probably destroyed. Probably the mummies are also destroyed. And we're talking about the culture that was around at the cataclysm that, according to Sumerians, is probably 2024 BC. We're talking Sodom and Gomorrah stuff.
Yes.
So anyways, that's a different topic. We'll jump into that. That's a huge topic.
This can go on for a very long time. And we're 5 minutes away from our close, so I know that
we didn't get to the Spratt Stoneworks. I'm sorry.
Yeah, we
so
got
the
so
Spratt
much.
Stoneworks, it again, Menifee County coming up again, and these guys, the Ancient Kentucky Historic Association, They're really big on Menifee County. There is something special there. The precipitation goes up there by about 4 to 6 centimeters,
Yes,
right over
that's
Means, Kentucky. It's really
something
strange.
that I had noticed a change going.
Oh, there's a definite change. There's no doubt about it. And there, up on the ridges, above where the shelter we trace cuts through, is a mysterious set of stoneworks. And I'm going to take a look at what I can get and glean. There is some definite.
Take pictures.
I will. You're going to come with me. We're going to wait until it's probably a little less jungly. I just went by the Boyd Serpent Mound. Boyd County. We have our own Serpent Mound, people, in Boyd County.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, right on the I think it's the Big Sandy River. I'd have to look, but overlooking. Ashland Oil owns this, and guess who plowed right through the head of it? Ashland Oil Company. So they fenced it off. I took a look. It looks really jungly, so probably going to get photos of that in the fall. But we have our own serpent mound, and these serpent mounds are incredibly important piece of evidence because considering the diversity of species and the kind of megafauna and then other power species that, and you just think of the legends coming down about mammoths and saber-toothed tigers and ground sloths. Yeah. The obsession with serpents is remarkable. So probably pointing directly to something seen in the sky. And according to Dave Talbot, again, if you go and you look at symbols of an alien sky, remembering the end of the world, the Thunderbird, the entire Thunderbolts project, you're starting to talk about archetypes that have to do with most of them, of course, with the second cataclysm, not the deluge kind of era stuff, because that's so old that it gets a little lost in this. There is a lot of stuff remembered in Egypt, but mostly the stuff that is from that era, that Bronze Age era, and what the natives were seeing and writing down. And what, of course, in South America, a lot of these earthworks, the circle and square next to each other.
And the similarities.
You see them in the Amazon. They're popping up. They're cutting down trees. They're finding these same earthworks.
So there has to be something
universal
behind it.
Something universal to it. Of course, there's a lot of people who are going to say, well, it's landing pads. In Chinese philosophy, we say, that heaven is round and earth is square. Where does that saying come from? I know this. Last year, they announced that they found that Mauritian subcontinent under in the Indian Ocean. Yeah. So Lemuria is totally possible at this point. The door is open on Lemuria. If you're big on Atlantean theory, well, maybe all the space stuff was there. We have no idea. I mean, honestly, we don't. We just know the Sumerians are saying it was there.
Find out.
The Sumerians are saying it, and the Mahabharata is saying it. And then they start digging in Dwarka under the sea, and then they stop it, and they say, well, we don't need to know anything else. And there's the cities underneath of the water outside Japan, not to just mention Bimini Row, west of Cuba. I mean, there's these pyramid structures appearing everywhere. And once more, a plug for this DVD, Lee Pennington, Bosnian Pyramids. If you want to go underneath and see what's in the ground, okay. Now, Graham Hancock doesn't believe that it's real concrete. I think the jury's out. It was mud rock as a concrete. It's older than Rome. That's what's for sure there. And the tunnels are man-made, and they're plugged up on purpose. Yeah. Göbekli Tepe also buried on purpose, not by flood, on purpose. It's a time capsule. So the question is, what are we looking at,
and why?
And why? And the science is also changing. And in the future episodes that we'll talk about how plasma science is evolving at an advancing rapid rate, and we're not just putting the Band-Aid on a dead theory. I'm here to tell you guys that last year, Big Bang, particularly dark matter, took huge, probably insurmountable hits to it, and it's more or less dead. They're going to keep it limping on, but
for a while,
things are changing.
Anyway.
Things are changing really fast, and
I'm excited.
It is exciting stuff because, the potentials of, what is Michael Tellinger finding with these stones? Are they absorbers of energy? Are we somehow able to get plasma energy? Were these sites to draw plasma energy? We don't know.
They somehow conduct.
Well, he took them through an X-ray at the airport, and it set off shut down their systems, and the guards came out and put guns to the situation and said, "Hey, what's in this bag? What's in this stone?"
Yeah.
Weird thing, and that's a site that almost no archaeological work has been done in South Africa, and it's absurd, but it's just the truth. There's just a whole lot that mainstream would rather sweep under the rug because it doesn't fit the main narrative, which has been set by Egyptologists forever.
Right.
And the whole Greek the reason that we are such a Greek and Roman-based society is because they didn't even think anything else was older. Lo and behold, there's Sumeria, and now there's Göbekli Tepe and its neighbor, which is another Tepe. And so there are older civilizations. Gunung Padang, they found wood inside that pyramid. So things are moving quickly. The electric universe may not have everything right, okay? But
at least we're uncovering a bunch of really fascinating
That's
stuff.
right. And I want to clarify, I'm not part of the Electric Universe group. I'm doing my own research. I'm on my own. I don't know Dave Talbot or Wal Thornhill. I just find that their arguments are very compelling, and they make predictions that come true vis-a-vis comets. The flashes before the probe hits the comet.
Yep.
You know, and no dust, and they're not finding any snow on these so-called dirty snowballs. So what's really happening? Evidence in Kentucky, amazing stuff going right back to the ancient days. Maybe some of these lost cities, Spratt Stoneworks, maybe they will have more answers. We won't know unless we get up there.
That's right. Unless we investigate.
And we got to protect it.
We have an open mind. We protect the sites, and we investigate into this stuff.
Yeah, because they're not going to do it. I can promise you that. There's too much. They risk their own fame if they go outside of a certain little box, and they're not allowed to listen to. So on one hand, you know, this is part of my paper as well. You know, the natives are so smart, but they can't figure out what a wheel is. Or maybe they thought the wheel was sacred, and so they weren't going to, you know, use it for a wheelbarrow or something like that.
Yeah.
If they're doing. You know how the pyramid has a 51.8 degree side? The 51.8 degrees shows up in the Newark earthworks. The same degrees.
That cannot be coincidence.
That's not coincidence.
No.
The mathematical improbability is too high.
See, I feel like we're on an episode of X-Files where we're just like, we want to know the truth. So with that, we're going to wrap up. You guys stay tuned. There's going to be more of these episodes. What you need to do is go to my Facebook page and put C First. And we'll put his Facebook page on there as well, and go and mark his C First. And you won't miss any of these episodes because we are going to go through quite a bit this fall. I've got a schedule to give you here.
Here it is. Stoners Creek, mouth of Flat Run in Bourbon County.
Stoners Creek at the mouth of Flat Run in Bourbon County.
I'm sure it's gone by now, but there you go. That's
sad.
That's where the and that's Rafton-esque surveyed that in 1820.
So let's look at this schedule. We didn't even hit half of this, so I would say, do you want to do the other half on August the 7th and then go to Voloski's Conundrum on September?
Because we're getting back into the electric universe, their entire way that they look at things, and you can't talk about it without Velikovsky and Houghton Arp.
So we'll just move everything down one and finish this up on August.
I think we could fit it in the same episode, yeah. Okay,
so if you guys want to take this down on August the 7th, we're going to finish this material, and we'll go over the Voloski Conundrum. Velikovsky Conundrum. September the 11th, we're going to do Plasma Science and the Project Sapphire, but that's Sapphire, Safire. November the 6th, we're going to do Space and Plasma Cosmology. And we'll see where we go from there.
I know. Talking about some big stuff already.
That's okay. What else are we going to do with our time?
Oh, yeah.
Well, thanks for tuning in tonight to Instagram and Facebook.
Thank you, guys.
And I will see you next Monday night. Kisses from Kentucky. Bye. You guys.